Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to completely transform how you navigate, well, pretty much every single conversation in your life. We're diving deep into the incredibly powerful, field-tested strategies of Chris Voss. He's a former lead FBI international kidnapping negotiator, and we're unpacking his incredible book, Never Split the Difference. Because here's the thing, whether you're trying to score a salary increase, close a massive business deal, or honestly just trying to get your kids to go to bed on time, you are negotiating. Now, we've all been taught that getting the other person to say yes is the ultimate goal, right? I mean, that's just common sense. But what if I told you that pushing for a yes might actually be the most dangerous thing you can do in a conversation? I know, it sounds totally backward, but stick with me, because by the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly why chasing that yes is a massive trap, and more importantly, what you should be doing instead. Before we really get going, we've got to accept one core premise. As Chester Carrs famously said, in business as in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Negotiation isn't just some rare event reserved for corporate boardrooms or, high-stakes hostage standoffs. It is an everyday survival skill. And successful negotiation, it isn't about crushing your opponent or winning an argument. It's really about understanding people, uncovering hidden information, and building trust so you can guide the conversation toward a way better outcome. So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll break down the great negotiation myth, learn the FBI's tactical empathy, and build your active listening toolkit. Then we'll master the power of no, discover how to find hidden black swans, and finally apply all of this to winning in everyday life. Let's equip you with some actual superpowers. All right, Section 1, the great negotiation myth, logic versus emotion. Let's get right into it. For decades, traditional negotiation advice has operated on this huge assumption that humans are perfectly rational creatures. It assumed that if we just sit down, lay out the cold hard facts, and look for a logical win-win compromise, everything is going to work out fine. But as we all know, in emotionally charged situations, rationality usually just falls apart. Let's actually contrast this. Think about the classic Harvard method, the one popularized by the book Getting TS. It focuses heavily on objective criteria, separating emotions from the issue, finding mutual gain, basically treating people almost like rational robots. On the flip side, Chris Voss's FBI method completely replaces that with a toolkit built for dealing with highly emotional, messy humans. It leans into psychology to actually influence decisions. Moving right along to Section 2, the FBI's tactical empathy and dealing with humans. You see, Chris Voss's background dealing with bank robbers and hostage takers is what completely shaped this method. In a literal life-or-death moment, you can't just offer an objective win-win compromise, right? You can't just say, okay, you have 4 hostages, how about you give me 2 and we call it even? It doesn't work. You have to deal with the raw humanity sitting across the table. Voss calls his core concept tactical empathy. Honestly, it's like emotional intelligence on steroids. It means genuinely understanding the feelings of the other party in the moment to increase your influence. Trying to meet raw emotion with common sense almost always fails. Just think about the mediator Kenneth Feinberg in the movie Worth. At first, he tried using these highly objective, logical math formulas to distribute compensation to grieving 9/11 families, and it was a total disaster. It only worked when he stopped relying on the math and actually started listening to their profound grief. Emotion will always override logic. Whether you're compensating families or just dealing with an angry client, logic won't save you, but empathy absolutely will. So how do we actually apply this in real life? Well, here is a highly actionable 5-step process to take control of the emotional dynamic. And it all starts with the late-night FM DJ voice. When things get tense, you actively drop your pitch, slow way down, and speak calmly, kind of like I'm doing right now. This declarative downward inflecting tone literally triggers a neurochemical calming reaction in the other person's brain. From there, you apologize, you mirror them, you use silence, and you repeat. Okay, Section 3, your active listening toolkit, focusing on mirroring and labeling. Let's really break down these 2 incredible techniques that you can pull out of your pocket during, say, a tense salary negotiation with your boss, or even a bedtime argument with your kids. Now, the hard data backing this up is just wild. Mirroring simply means repeating the last 3 words or the critical 1 to 3 words of what someone just said. Psychologist Richard Wiseman actually studied this and found that waiters who simply mirrored their customers' orders back to them, instead of just saying something like great or no problem, received 70% more tips. It's incredible because it builds instant subconscious rapport. And right alongside mirroring is something called labeling. This is when you verbally identify the other person's emotions to validate them and diffuse any negative feelings. You spot an emotion and you say something like, "It seems like you're frustrated," or "It sounds like this is really important to you." But notice the phrasing. We aren't saying, "I hear that you're frustrated." Using the word "I" makes people immediately defensive. Sticking to "it seems like" keeps the focus entirely on them and builds immense trust. It's a total game changer. To really succeed with this, you use these tools to discover their underlying need. A great example of this is George Clooney's character in the movie Up in the Air, when he's firing an angry employee named Bob. Instead of arguing the facts of the termination, Clooney labels the emotion. He says, "Your children's admiration is important to you?" Bam! He finds Bob's core emotional need and uses it to pivot the entire conversation. Find that emotional anchor, and you are the one guiding the ship. Which leads us to Section 4, mastering the power of no and finding safety in rejection. Remember at the very beginning when I said chasing a yes is actually dangerous? Well, here is exactly why. There are actually 3 different types of yes. The confirmation yes is just a basic reflex. The commitment yes is the real deal. But the counterfeit yes, that is what kills deals. That's when the other person fully plans on saying no, but feels like giving you a yes is just an easier escape route to get you off their back. Pushing for a hard yes just makes people feel trapped, It really irks them. But here's the secret. Because humans desperately want to feel secure, saying no actually makes them feel safe and totally in control. Voss teaches us to intentionally trigger a no. For example, if you are trying to reach someone, don't ask, "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" They're going to feel trapped. Instead, ask, "Is now a bad time to talk?" You will either get, "Yes, it's a bad time," or you'll get, "No, it's not," followed by their total undivided focus. Honestly, getting to no quickly actually kicks off the real negotiation because it firmly establishes boundaries. Think of the movie Air, where Michael Jordan's mother, Dolores, flat out refuses to accept a standard corporate no from Nike. By pushing back and getting Nike to clearly state their boundaries, she uncovered what they actually needed from her son, and that allowed her to negotiate a historic revenue-sharing deal. Whether you're dealing with Nike or just a local vendor, no isn't the end of the conversation. It's literally just the beginning. All right, Section 5, discovering hidden black swans, the unknown unknowns. This is really the climax of our negotiation toolkit today. If you've mirrored, if you've labeled, and you've successfully navigated the no's, you're now in the perfect position to uncover the secret leverage that the other side is hiding from you. So, what's a black swan? It's that hidden, entirely unexpected piece of information. They are the unknown unknowns. And discovering these massive leverage multipliers happens when you take the discussion away from the strict numbers of the deal and actually dig into the other person's worldview. Because once you find out what they are really afraid of or what they truly value beyond just money, the entire dynamic shifts totally in your favor. To find these black swans and guide the negotiation smoothly, you use what Voss calls calibrated questions. Basically, you replace aggressive why questions with how or what questions. Think about it. Why did you do that? Immediately makes people defensive. But asking, how am I supposed to do that? Forces your counterpart to pause, look at your situation, and actually help you solve your own problem. It's brilliant because it gives them the illusion of control while you are the one quietly driving the conversation. The real trick here, the ultimate goal of a calibrated question, is leading your counterpart to the destination by letting them think it was their own idea. In the movie The Founder, there's this great scene where Harry Sonborn uses a series of carefully calibrated questions to make McDonald's CEO Ray Kroc realize, entirely on his own, that he isn't in the burger business, he's in the real estate business. Sonborn didn't force the idea on him at all. He just guided Kroc there naturally. And finally, Section 6, winning in everyday life. Practical application. Let's bring all of these FBI concepts together and apply them to the everyday conflicts we all face. Whether it's dealing with a really tough client, negotiating your salary, or just navigating disagreements at home. To really win in everyday life, you have to understand Albert Mehrabian's 70-38-55 rule. Have you heard of this? It shows that only 7% of a message is based on the literal words, 38% is tone of voice, and a whopping 55% is body language. If someone says yes to your proposal, but their tone is super tight and their arms are crossed, you might be dealing with a liar or a hidden objection. You absolutely have to pay attention to the whole picture if you want to guarantee follow-through.
And above all else, you absolutely have to keep your own emotions in check. Think of Vito Corleone in The Godfather. When he was offered a highly lucrative but very dangerous narcotics deal, he didn't scream, he didn't get angry. He calmly asked calibrated questions, evaluated the situation, and used a smooth, highly controlled voice to politely say no without ever losing his cool or causing an immediate violent confrontation. A negotiation does not have to be a battle, folks.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Will you treat your next conversation as a battle to be won, or as an act of discovery, just waiting to unfold? Remember, successful negotiation is really about actively listening, building trust, and gently guiding the other person. By using tactical empathy, mirroring, labeling, and those calibrated questions, you now have the exact tools to uncover hidden truths and get way better outcomes for everyone involved. I highly challenge you to test out these new superpowers in your very next conversation.